Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Joseph and I am interested in psychodynamic psychotherapy. I'm interested in conflict and really the ways that we come to really deal with conflict in our lives. You know, a lot of times we are fed this idea that mental illness is a biological imbalance. And while there are, no doubt, biological explanations for negative affects, and positive affects and these kind of issues that typically we deal with as human beings, the truth is that there is also a social and psychological domain that needs to be better understood and respected within our medical system. And this is an important passion for me because I've spent some time working in medicine and I have found it to be quite terrible when it comes to giving people what I think that they really do deserve from treatment. And it's kind of counterproductive, or not productive, I should say, it's counterintuitive. But what I've really learned is that we've become quite good in the modern understanding for reducing a lot of our problems to rationalizations as well as sort of empirical or scientific rationalizations. So like as an example, I can talk to you about depression as a chemical imbalance, and that appeals to the modern understanding, the modern narrative. But when we do really good science and we try to understand what the etiology is for depression, we find it's much more complex, it's much more complicated. And that in fact, the monoamine hypothesis with serotonin does not hold up with the literature reviews of the randomized controlled trials. So what we need to ask is a deeper question. You know, what is the etiology? What are the causal factors underlying different patterns of affects, be they positive or negative affects? And I've been asking this question for a very long time. This is a complicated question. But when it comes to the praxis of medicine, the way that, doctors and nurse practitioners, psychologists even, get reimbursed from insurance companies, there is a lack of respect for this complexity. And really it's my passion to respect that complexity. I think we need to have a better conversation about what the evidence really says. And there's all these different explanations that we have, and some explanations tend to appeal a little bit more to the modern consciousness, namely looking at evolution. When we start to ask questions and we have an answer for our problems based in Darwinian theory, then people tend to be a bit more comfortable. But I also think that there are profound limits to the Darwinian model. I think that the Darwinian model is in some sense just the zeitgeist of the modern world. We aren't religious anymore and we adopt an evolutionary model. Yet the human psychology requires, for dealing with suffering and pain, a religious understanding. We are designed to have faith and to live, like to actually act out our beliefs within groups. So once you start to understand that we are really designed a certain way, you can ask yourself, where do these psychopathologies come from? Well, I think the evolutionary model is very useful. We can see that there's a mismatch between our nature and our environment. And that mismatch has grown so big that we are lost in this sea of chaos. I think that approach is very useful, but it only hits a certain point. I think what we need to do is we need to actually assimilate or adapt our treatment to the individual, both at the level of development as well as temperament and culture. Now that's complicated. So that's what I want to do. We can talk about the biology and we can talk about the evolutionary models. We can really conceptualize our treatment based off of what we know about the best evidence-based research on the etiology of these emotional disorders. But I think that we're always going to be we're always going to be missing something if we forget about the domain of meaning and human relationship more specifically. So that's really my main thing. I'm sensitized, I'm sensitive. I don't know why I'm this sensitive, but I think that perhaps God wants me to remind people of what is true about human nature so that we can stop spending all this money on treatments that lack real lasting outcomes, that aren't sensitive to the individual, that in some cases actually ignore pain and suffering. I found that it's actually quite a paradox, but if we actually confront suffering with the right context, then we actually transcend it. It's very beautiful. Probably the best way that we understand this in evidence-based medicine for addiction is Alcoholics Anonymous. There is this profound sense, right, of a religious community, and as a result, change can happen in profound ways. If we locate the problem within the brain system and we forget about culture and society, especially the individual experiences, then what we do is we fail. We fail epically, and I have a sense that if we continue to fail, that we are going to see a society that's very, very disconnected. And I don't know about you, but I'm seeing that more and more. Do not disconnect. Remember, in pain and conflict, lean into your connections, lean into your attachments. This is the way that we've been designed as human beings. I wish you the best, and I want to hear from you. So if you're interested in anything I have to say, comment below, like the video, and I will see you very soon in a new video. Take great care. Bye-bye.